Usually when people talk about warrior cats, they have a script and all that. I do not. I'm just gonna yap. I like Spottedleaf a lot, and I have liked her since I was young, but I think that she represents the great lack of thought that the Erin Hunters put into their books and how they accidentally portray a lot of negative things. I believe it's on accident. If it's on purpose, then they are very smart, but also this is a kid's book, so why are you putting that in there? So I'm going to start from Spottedleaf's youth, explained in the novella Spottedleaf's Heart. Spottedleaf's Heart I haven't read in a long time, but when I did read it, it was evident that Spotted Kit was being groomed by an older warrior named Thistleclaw. And when I read it about a year ago, I took some notes on that. I had formerly thought that the authors didn't realize they were portraying a grooming scenario, but after I read Vicky's commentary, she says, I have included something as nasty as a very young apprentice being approached by a much older warrior. This is why Thistleclaw was consigned to the place of no stars. Anyway, a little bit of a review of Spottedleaf's Heart. This is a summary I wrote. Spotted Kit pads over to the fresh kill pile and approaches Thistleclaw. He sees her looking at a thrush and offers her feathers for her nest. She is unsure but accepts the gift from him. White Paw comes over. So White Paw is Thistleclaw's son. He's older than Spotted Kit, which is kind of crazy. And Spotted Kit is unsure about Thistleclaw's advances. Thistleclaw is, messing around with his apprentice, being kind of rough, and Spotted Paw is very scared of him for that. Later, he follows her with prey and apologizes, compliments her, and says they could have a future together. He invites her to come somewhere with him tonight, and then it mentions, in quotes, Spotted Paw is horrified. Spotted Paw hesitantly says yes. Spotted Paw flees in terror. Thistleclaw comes after her. Thistleclaw refuses to listen to Spotted Paw. Thistleclaw says he would do anything for Spotted Paw. Spotted Paw hesitates, not knowing what to say due to conflicting emotions. So it's very evident that, she is not comfortable with this relationship, which is fair because he's so old and it's crazy. But later at the end of the book, Spotted Paw says she has had bad dreams, unwilling to tell the Messy Cat about Thistleclaw's troubling visits, so she doesn't want to tell anyone about what he did to her, which I think is really the messed up part of this, because in a kid's book, if you portray a grooming scenario, I feel as though what you should do is you should be like, hey, this happened to this cat, and this is how it was made right. Like, yeah, Thistleclaw goes to the dark forest, but there's no outward mention in the books of Spotted Paw telling the other cats, hey, Thistleclaw did this to me, guys, and them being like, oh, that's bad. It's like she just hides from it, which I think is really not a positive thing, and there's no mention that that's bad, which bothers me. Okay, so here are my 3 little analyses that I came up with a while ago. So I'm just going to read them out because I wrote them. Theory 1 has to do with Spotted Kit being portrayed intentionally as a tragic character, but the fact that nobody realizes her tragedy is what causes her to be so. She was groomed as a kit and fled to the medicine den to hide from the problem rather than confronting it. Thistle never got proper repercussion. Spotted continued to be valued for her romantic desirability as she grew. For instance, cats were noting her being young and pretty in the first book, and was essentially thus groomed by society into being a woman whose purpose is to appeal to men, with her kind demeanor, dimensionless character, and attractiveness, kind of like a tragic satire, like the Stepford Wives. Okay, next theory. This one I feel like is kind of a common theory, but Spottedleaf is a portrayal of what happens when grooming goes unaddressed and perpetuates. Spottedleaf did not get enough notion as to why what Thistleclaw did was wrong, so she took her bad mindset into adulthood. Then she kind of groomed Firepaw, and then the cycle continued with Fireheart and Cinderpaw, and kind of ended there. Okay, last thing, Thistleclaw and Spottedleaf's relationship was definitely received as messed up, but Firepaw and Spottedleaf's relationship was viewed as being cute, when there was very similar age difference, I think. Firepaw and Spottedleaf's was more acceptable because it was more consensual. I think there's kind of like a theme there of like, when men groom people are more quick to understand they're evil for it, but women can get away with grooming easier because they're seen as more docile and more victim in general. So, like, Spotted Paw got groomed by Thistleclaw, and she's like, oh my god, this is horrible. But Firepaw got groomed by Spottedleaf, and then everyone's like, oh, look at this pretty cat you got here. Like, Yeah. I don't think the authors actually intended to write any of that. I think that's just, like, the unintentional things they portrayed. I think the authors bear a very misogynistic mindset when they're writing the story, and it reflects in their writing, and I don't think they intend for it to be that way. Because if you look at Spottedleaf's story, basically, she longed to be a warrior, is what was established in, the book, Spottedleaf's Heart. But then, after what Thistleclaw did to her, she ran away and hid in the medicine den instead of, confronting it. She was like, hey, I can't tell anyone what he did to me. I have to just adjust my life for it instead of punishing him, which I think is really wrong. And they don't say in the series that that's wrong, which I think is even more terrible, because what message are you sending? And then she continues to be totally subservient, like, nice girl, like, instantly right off the bat and Into the Wild, she's established as being young and pretty, which is actually wrong because she's pretty old in that part. And they describe Darkstripe as being old right then, which is like, he is younger than her, so it's weird. And then, like, the entire purpose that she serves is to be a love interest to Firepaw, and she is so devout to him, even though he has another mate, which is kind of, like, she doesn't have anything of her own personality. It's just, like, adjusting her life to be, around men. And the last thing is that Kate Carey stated that Spottedleaf was killed so that, quote, Firestar didn't have to choose between her and Sandstorm and StarClan. That's crazy. She died just so that Fireheart didn't have to choose between them? Like, oh my god, she didn't even live for herself. She just lived for all the boy characters. Okay, last thing I'm gonna say is that I feel like the misogyny extends a little bit into Blue Star's storyline. Blue Star was like, oh my god, I can't have Thistleclaw be deputy. I have to give up my kits so that I can be deputy. So, the leader at the time was Sunstar, who was her mentor. And the fact that she felt she couldn't just go up to Sunstar and say, hey, please don't make Thistleclaw deputy. I have doubts about him. It was the fact that it was so established in the series that Thistleclaw can't be questioned is really wrong to me. Like, you should be able to, as a woman, like, condemn men in power and be like, hey, you're doing wrong things to me. It's like, it bothers me. I wish that they would address that in the series and not just send this message to children. Like, yeah, that's it. That's the end.